And good evening, everyone. We are back to Ask the Theologian, and I am glad you're here. And I got my monitor up too loud, and we'll get echoing there. But welcome, everybody. It's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've had a theological insomniac. And here we are, and are we working? That's the question. You know, I'm always on my own. For some reason, I can't get Nathan to come work for me when I do the theological insomniac, but hopefully we're working good. So, hey, we are very casual in the theological insomniac. If you have never been with us, we hope you will just think it's delightful. We discuss, late night commentary on the normal, the abnormal, and the paranormal. And I'm on the controls, which means sometimes, you get things like you had a moment ago, things like this, just going all over the place, me trying to figure out, what am I doing here? And I follow your comments and go along. And I get comments every time, so I'm just telling you, I'm not wearing pajamas, okay? These are like legit clothes, and it's cold outside here. Let's see, that's what I was trying to bring up there. There we go, the weather right here. -6 degrees tonight. That's a little chilly. But the feels like temperature is -15. We don't normally have much difference between the real temperature and the feels like temperature, if there is really such a thing. But it's cold tonight. Maybe it's warm where you are. Hey, I got this little iPad right here that Nathan convinced me I had to buy. And so now I can look at your chats. What we do on this good program is just kind of talk about the things you want to talk about, interspersed with the things I want to talk about. How's that? Let's start. You all know that I like to read old newspapers. And one of the things I do, not every day, but quite often, is I'll get on newspapers.com that I finally broke down and got a membership for, and I will look at 100 years ago today. It's just always kind of interesting to me. What happened 100 years ago today? I don't know why 100 years ago matters, but what happened 100 years ago today? Well, we go to the Charleston Daily Mail for December the 13th, which was a Monday. This is the Monday evening, December 13th, 1920. And first of all, we got President-elect Harding holds first important conference. Now, interesting, that conference, I wasn't going to talk about it so much, but it just dawned on me how these things are so related. The two headlines in the Charleston Daily Mail. President-elect Harding holds his first important conference. Now, it goes on, this article right over here is about this conference is the most important meeting of the minds. And there's a little gossip over the cabinet, imagine that. But advice on the Association of Nations. It goes on through here. And of course, 1920 is just a little bit after World War I. And they were talking about the formation, what would be the formation of the League of Nations and what form that would take. Now, that is pretty globalism, one world order kind of stuff 100 years ago. Now, what I wanted to spend a little more time talking about, if we go across the page over here, American women enter first big demand for federal aid to homes. Now, I don't remember, it hadn't been too long since the suffrage movement and women getting the right to vote. When was that? That was in the teens, wasn't it? And this would have been, 1920. So with this, they want legislation to protect motherhood. Maybe media has always just been in the bag for propaganda. Do you really need legislation to protect motherhood? And wouldn't you agree with me that the best protection of motherhood is just to leave government out of it, right? But they want some protection to protect motherhood. This is 100 years ago. Want $4 million, this is dollars, $4 million to teach young mothers. How many of you think this is going to turn out well? What a great idea. Let's get some government money to teach young mothers in order to protect motherhood. Grand idea, right? Well, let's look at it a little bit here. States must take part. That's something that used to happen 100 years ago. Here we go. When the American woman left her place in the home on Election Day, she paved the way for the adoption of a piece of legislation that will do more for the home, perhaps, than any one law in American history. A little bit of, pardon the switch screen button and the black button are right next to each other. Why do they do that? But boy, what a monumental piece of legislation, more than any other piece in American history, of course, after that time, to protect the family. Early next week, Congress will consider the first legislative proposal made by the women of America since the universal suffrage was granted. Not only have the women done the unprecedented thing of asking for a relatively insignificant appropriation, only $4 million, but they have pointed out how that $4 million can be of as much or more benefit to the American nation as any other $4 million in the whole budget of the $4 billion. Now, what they want here, won't go on to read all this, but they want the federal government, in cooperation with the states of the union, you know, that phrase right there, the states of the union. It's kind of interesting that you don't hear that phrase anymore, do you? The states of the union. That's exactly what they are. I think 100 years ago, there was a little bit more understanding that we were a union of states. And that understanding is almost completely gone now. So we might talk about the states and the states' part and the states' responsibility and some things like that. But that little phrase, states of the union, interesting that we don't use that much anymore. But they were, asking the federal government for this $4 million. And it was going to provide some education for the proper knowledge of hygiene before birth and after birth. And in needy cases, nurses and physicians would be ready to come to their aid instantly. In some pitiful cases of neglect in the country districts, especially come to the attention of the women who have investigated these questions and statistics, and goes on telling about what wonderful, absolutely wonderful things that it was going to do. America has been far behind in this kind of social legislation. Understands it is social legislation, and it goes on to talk about some of this, and it called it the Sheppard-Towner Act. Senator Sheppard from Texas, Senator Towner from Iowa came together. Now, first of all, I looked at that and I said, looks to me like this legislation on the home is maybe the first time that the federal government is getting into two things. One, into social education, if you will. But more so than that, it's in the medical arena. Hygiene. How to wash your hands, and it had to do with infant mortality and some things like this, which certainly needed to be addressed, no doubt about it. And infant mortality in those days, of course, was very high, and even the death of mothers was very high. And so they came together. And what the mistake they made is that they assumed to fix the problem, we need to turn to the government. And the government fixes the problem. Now, it looks to me like you could probably, I haven't done enough research on this, but you could probably trace the huge CDC and the government telling us everything about our health and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to eat and how we're supposed to eat it and when we're supposed to eat it and what we're supposed to breathe and not breathe and all these other things, might be able to trace it right here. Now, because it told us it was the Sheppard-Towner Act, I just went and, of course, it was being proposed 100 years ago. It hadn't been voted upon yet. But I looked at Wikipedia. Turns out, sure enough, it had been voted upon. And what I thought was of rather interesting was to go down and see the opposition and end of the act. Now, some interesting stuff right here on who opposed it. Cases brought before the Supreme Court claiming the act was unconstitutional were dismissed in 1923. The act was due for renewal in 1926. Wow, that's a good thing. To put something up for renewal. You mean this doesn't just go on forever? It was up for renewal in 1926. But met with more vocal opposition than in 1921. This is interesting. The American Medical Association saw the act as a socialist threat to its professional autonomy. Now think about that. A socialist threat to its professional autonomy. I want to, let me get those words highlighted and bring them up. There we go. A socialist threat to its professional autonomy. The American Medical Association. Do you know what they said at this act? And we'll finish it here in just a moment. What they said is, we doctors are going to lose our professional autonomy. We're going to lose it to the government. That is, we're going to lose it to a committee in the government. We're going to lose it to a socialist movement. And anytime a profession is taken over by the government, guess what happens? It's a socialist movement. The American Medical Association must have had some people who were thinking. Yeah, I've said several times on Ask the Theologian, I think the Medical Association today, or the medical, what do you call it? The medical profession today has just, can I say, sold its soul to the devil. They, just for a piece of the Medicare pie and a piece of the Obamacare pie, they have said, oh, mighty government, we will do whatever you want us to do. And they've lost their ability to have professional autonomy anymore. And, they turn to Dr. Fauci and everything else. And the government really does dictate to doctors today. If there's any doctors, let me know if I'm wrong here. But the government dictates how long you can see it, how long somebody can go in the hospital, what medicines you can give and what medicines you can't give, how much you can charge for this. The doctors today work for the government. They are government employees. Now, still the payment system is a little not through the government yet. Give Kamala 30 seconds and it will be, but it's not through the government yet. Except on Medicare, which I suppose is the vast majority. But 100 years ago, there were doctors who were saying, should we really give up our profession to the government? That's a threat, a socialist threat to our professional autonomy. So the American Medical Association was against it. Look, they increased their lobbying efforts despite the pediatric section of the AMA, House of Delegates, endorsement of the Act's renewal. This is interesting. The rebuking of the pediatric section by the full House of Delegates led to the members of the pediatric section establishing the American Academy of Pediatrics. I haven't looked to see if there's still an American Academy of Pediatrics, but interesting that if there is, it started out desiring socialism in healthcare. I can guess where it is today. In the Journal of American Medical Association, members of the AMA also critiqued the role of laywomen administrators in the Children's Bureau, arguing that the administration of mother and infant health policies should take place under medical, predominantly male leadership, and the public health under the medical, predominantly male leadership. Now, I suppose this is somebody on Wikipedia just sticking in this predominantly male leadership. I don't think the issue was women and men. I think the issue is lay and professional. That is, the American Medical Association was saying, you know what this act does? It puts a non-medical committee in Washington, D.C. in charge of the way that we country doctors take care of our families right here. And let's read just a little bit more. Opponents included the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which supported the act in 1921, and the anti-suffragist Woman Patriot Publishing Company, who accused the Sheppard-Towner bill of being a communist plot. You know, in one sense, somebody might say, nah, it's wrong. It wasn't a communist plot. In another sense, it was a communist plot 100 years ago. And communism is to live under a commune, right? It doesn't have to be, USSR style. It's when you put everything under a commune, a federal commune in this case. It's a communist plot. In January 1927, a group of senators initiated a filibuster on the act, and Utah Senator William H. King, arguing that the bill was championed by neurotic women, social workers who obtained pathological satisfaction in interfering with the affairs of other people, and Bolsheviks who did not care for the family and its perpetuity. Now, William King might not have been politically correct in 2020, but maybe he was right. I don't know. As a compromise, the Sheppard-Towner Act was extended for another 2 years and expired in 1929. Women's groups unsuccessfully continued to organize and revive the act. In the following year, Sheppard-Towner set the framework for the inclusion of substantial provisions for maternal and infant care in the Social Security Act of 1935. My guess is WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, is what came from, again, the Sheppard-Towner Act 100 years ago. Today was in the, what newspaper are we in? The Charleston Daily Mail. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the news. Now, back to our program. Let's see what we've got here. Let's see. Eric in Ohio says he's going to go to bed early. Come on, Eric. What do you think sleep can be more important than, late night commentary on the normal, the abnormal, and the paranormal? And the news 100 years ago? Sleep. Oh, my goodness. But Vena's not going to sleep unless it's a nap because it's afternoon in West Australia. And did we talk the other day, Vena, about, and Ask the Theologian, I can't remember, I know I thought about it. The restrictions that the West Australia, I assume you call it West Australia and not Western Australia, right? It's the state of West Australia. And let me just make sure I am saying that right here. Maybe it's Western Australia. It is Western. Okay. There we go. That's a big state. Western Australia. What? You live like down here somewhere, right? Don't you? Lenora, Western Australia, gold mining town. But the state of Western Australia putting in, dare I say, draconian acts to stop the spread of COVID, where you have to, register. Like to go to church, you have to register. Everywhere you go, you have to register. It just bewilders me that anybody would think this was a good idea. I saw just today in Greece, you have to now starting, right. Yeah. Well, where is it? You have to. I saw this somewhere else, and I hate to bring up this site in public, but it's the one I found quickly. So please forgive me for the new site that I'm using here. Coronavirus lockdown in Greece requires people to text authorities before leaving home. Can you imagine? So in Western Australia, you have to sign in, I guess, everywhere you go, and businesses have to have the report ready of who was there at any given time. And then in Greece, I guess even worse than that, you got to text and get your permission slip from the government before you can do this. Just unbelievable. Now, sure, it wouldn't happen here, right? Already here in New Mexico, the governor tried this thing. I don't know if it's still going. Actually, most places in New Mexico, you can't go out to eat. It's got to be outdoor dining only. And it's -6 degrees. Ain't no outdoor dining going to go on for a while. But for a while, it was that you had to sign in there. The restaurants had this little thing, and you put your name and your address and your email and your phone number and all that. Now, I think it stopped. I may be wrong. Maybe it's still going, but I think it stopped, and it stopped because the vast majority of sign-ins was a lady named Michelle Lujan Grisham. That is, that even the socialist New Mexicans were saying, I'm not signing in to go to a restaurant. And they put the governor's name down there and the governor's address and the governor's phone number. And restaurants were just having this, Michelle Lujan Grisham just kept coming out to eat. So I think she stopped it. I could be wrong there. But just phenomenal what you've got there. Thanks, Vina, for joining us here and for posting a little reminder on Facebook about our program tonight, because it's been a long time since we have been in. Here's Stephen, Idaho Falls. Good to see you. Beautiful place up there. And just north there, we've got Tara in Butte, right? Butte? Not Bozeman. Butte. What's up with Bozeman? I don't really know Montana. I know that western Montana is beautiful. Eastern Montana is pretty, but it's more plains and oil country and that kind of stuff. But I saw the other day some little forum about Bozeman, and people were saying, I would never go, Bozeman's not what it used to be. But I didn't look to see there. But anyway, you're right. Tara used to live in Central Time, and now it's Mountain Time, now that we have taken a few months now off, haven't we, from Ask the Theologian, and she moved in the meantime, so you don't have to stay up as late, Tara. You're welcome. I don't know why. I guess you're fortunate now. You've moved into our time zone. Welcome to the mountains, Tara. It's beautiful, isn't it? And reminds tonight that if you got clear skies, which we do right here, beautiful clear skies. As a matter of fact, I was out a little bit ago doing a few things outside, like blowing snow. And looked up. I was doing it in the dark, but the snowblower has headlights, so it worked. But I stopped, shut everything down, and looked at just as clear as this right here. And I knew the meteor shower, Gemini meteor shower, was tonight. So later on, when this is done, the sky's going to be absolutely perfect, and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to watch the meteors fall in -6 degree weather, but I'm sure I'll have a good time. Linda in Lexington, in rainy Lexington, you're up late tonight. Hope you don't have to work tomorrow. And hope the cats are doing well, and your mom as well. And Nancy, good to see you, ready to fall asleep. Have you fallen asleep yet, Nancy? See if I can wake you up here. Definitely late in Winston-Salem. I guess that's the same time as Lexington, isn't it? Um, and cloudy in Arizona. That's too bad. Edith. Always happy to see Edith on. West Plains, Missouri. First snowfall for the season today in West Plains, Missouri. We had our first snowfall in September, kind of an early one, pretty decent. I don't remember, 3 or 4 inches. Didn't last long, went away. And then we've had one or two, but was our first good snowfall. I don't know, 12 to 14 inches, I'm guessing, at my house. And we needed it. We could use a whole bunch more. Back a while back, let me say, 20 minutes ago, you all were telling me there's feedback. Is there still feedback? Because maybe I can figure out what to do about that if there's some feedback in there. So you all tell me if you're getting feedback. I'm going to jump down in a moment. I'm about 30 to 60 seconds ahead of you all. So I'll wait just a minute and then I'll jump down and look at that. See. Bad echo. Yeah, okay. I was getting all those. Joel, good to see you. My preacher friend, Bible Doctrines to Live By. Centerville, Pennsylvania. Is that where you went to the hot dog place? Looked pretty good. Indeed, it did. Did indeed. Let's see. Dan, I'm going to come back to yours. I am going to flip down to the end and see. Sounds fine. No feedback anymore. Fine now. No, you sound great. I sound great. Why, thank you. Should I sing a song? Okay, I'm glad the audio is good now. Now I'm going to back up and I'm going to find Dan's. I need, like, I guess headphones. You know, a lot of sound, radio people, I guess, you know, you see them with headphones. And it is, I got a monitor over there, but I have to turn it down so much just to make, because then it will feedback. Maybe that was the problem. I didn't have it down low enough right at the beginning. Dan, down in cloudy Arizona, have you been watching the debate going on with Rodney and the right dividers on the subject of Paul writing his epistles to the little flock? No, I haven't, but I have known that it has been going on. And the only reason I know that it's been going on is because I have some friends of friends and I see them talking about it. Now, I want to try to find a way to say this without throwing anybody under the bus. So let's just put it this way. For some reason, I can't see Rodney's posts, and I won't even give a last name. Y'all can figure all that out, right dividing preacher, but I'm unable to see those posts. And so then I see other posts that kind of are referring to it, so I can tell something's going on there. And I wasn't really even sure exactly what the argument was about. So now I know actually more than I did, but that puts together a few things. Right dividers on the subject of Paul writing his epistles to the little flock. Now, I don't know what side Pastor Rodney comes on that. I do know that I listened to a sermon the other day on, I believe it was called "Why I Am Not Why I'm Not an Acts 28 Pastor," I think is what it's called. And I listened because sometimes I am accused of being an Acts 28 pastor. I'm not an Acts 28 pastor, and honestly, again, I don't know the politics and the history and all this and the organizations enough to know what's going on or, what landmines I'm about to step on sometimes. I need to learn because I'm getting more and more audience from the Mid-Acts movement. But anyway, I listened because I'm not Acts 28 either. And if you listen to me long enough, you know that I say, I think Bullinger made a mistake in... I understand why he made the mistake, but I think he made a mistake. I think he made a mistake in saying that the grace gospel came after after Acts 28, because in Acts 28, the kingdom gospel is being proclaimed. And it clearly is being proclaimed in Acts 28, as far as I read it. Now, I think that what Bullinger, the mistake he's made, and I've said this a number of times, I don't have my postcard here or my poster, but the mistake he has made is that he bumps them right back together. He doesn't have a transition or an overlap period. I used to always talk about that overlap before I had my chart. And because there was no overlap for Bullinger and the kingdom was in Acts 28, he had to go there. And it was just a logical conclusion. And he should have questioned the assumptions, but it was a logical conclusion to the assumption that he had. Now, sometimes because I do teach that Paul talked kingdom talks, for example, in our First Thessalonians study, I've done a lot of talking about that. Sometimes people hear a little part of that, and so they accuse me of being Acts 28. Now, so I listened to Pastor Rodney's sermon on why I'm not in Acts 28, and I actually agreed with him. And in fact, I wrote a little note. This was just last week. I haven't even mailed the note yet, but I had a little card there, and I wrote a little card, said, "Hey, good job on that. I agree." And one of the things he said is that there is a transition period. Okay, he calls it a transition period. I call it an overlap. On the card, actually, I do call it a transition period. So I don't know where Pastor Rodney, I know he says, I'm not in Acts 28, and I know he says there's a transition period. And I know that he was pretty strongly anti-Acts 28 in this issue. But anyway, down to it, I have not I'm not able to see all the argument that is going on there. And so I'm a little bit in the dark there. I think that because there isn't a clean break between the kingdom gospel was preached up to, it would be nice if we could, pick a date, December the 13th, 1920. And from that point on, it's been the grace gospel. If you could do that and lay that out in the scripture, obviously there would be no debate. But because it was the diminishing of Israel, not the cessation of Israel, but the diminishing of Israel, because of that, because there's an overlap, because there's a transition, I think there's always going to be some debate about, when did it start? When did it end? I've used the illustration before of the creation of the United States of America, or the birth of the United States of America. Was it July 4th, 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed? Or, as I talked about the other day in listening to the podcast on American history from the British guy, he talks about the Boston Tea Party was the last point at which the British Crown could have made amends and stopped the forthcoming revolution. They didn't do it. So maybe you should say the Boston Tea Party was our birth. I think there's always going to be that debate. The nice thing would be if we theologians and we people who love theology, I include all of you in that, if we could actually just debate theology, that is, try to lay our case and go out with it. It's kind of like, in our elections right now, the Supreme Court and so many other courts, whether we take the one with Texas and 18 other states or all of the others, when you look at it, the one thing I want to say is, why just totally reject it before you even hear it? Shouldn't there, with all this evidence of fraud or even suspicion of fraud, shouldn't there be a case somewhere where under oath people are laying out the evidence? That seems to be, if I was a Supreme Court justice, I would want to say, yeah, let's look at what you've got to say. I can always vote no. I can always turn it down. I can always say that was the most ridiculous lawsuit ever brought or case before the Supreme Court ever brought, and you, sir, should be ashamed for bringing it. I wouldn't mind saying that if that was the case, but you got to at least let someone say it somewhere. Now, I think it's the same thing with the discussions that we have, in-house discussions often. Rather than getting so angry with each other that we, block them and everything else, why not just say, hey, I totally disagree with you on that, brother. And here's why I think you're wrong. And we ought to be big boys and girls and be able to deal with all of that. I think, anyway. And certainly carry that out. Patricia, good to see you in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm so thankful that the Theological Insomniac is back. You look handsome in that dark green shirt. Can we just, can we somehow put that quote right on the screen? I just wish I could blow it up there. You look handsome in that dark green shirt. Thank you. My wife got me this. I'm too cheap to ever buy name brand clothing, so if I ever have one, and I can't read what it is. Marmot. I don't know what that means, but she's, you need Marmot. They're the warmest. You've got to have that. So she bought it for me, and I wear it a lot at home. It's comfortable. I don't usually wear it, for Ask the Theologian. So if we were, let's see here, if we were to switch like this, welcome to Ask the Theologian. I'm Dr. Randy White. Then it would be out of place, right? But that's not it. We're here on the Theological Insomniac, so I don't have to dress up. It's late night. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. Linda in Lexington, in 1920, an all-time peak of 250,000 miles of U.S. railroad track was achieved. Very interesting. I didn't know that. That's a lot of miles of track. I think, and you hear this every now and then. Excuse me while I turn down the heater because I'm wearing Marmot, and it says it's 78 degrees in here in the shed. Because I got this heater. It is the most fantastic heater. It's a Mr. Heater. Well, I guess I'm doing, I should do product placement, right? It's fantastic, but... it runs on a propane bottle, but I got it. The one I got is too big for this little room, so I need to build a bigger shed, I guess. But back to the railroads. I know that there are people that know this, and even you know this. I mean, it's not totally uncommon knowledge, but I think that the role of the railway in building America cannot be underestimated. I suppose even today, I mean, railroads aren't anything that they used to be, and yet the role of the railway in building the American West just phenomenal. In 1920, of course, a lot of that was happening with the modern building of the railway. Of course, a lot of it happened, 1850s to 1920 probably. And the rail barons and all of that. I've only done one Amtrak trip. This has been not too long ago. Several years, 3 years ago. I had a speaking engagement in California, and I decided just to get a one-way ticket, flying, a one-way ticket, and to take Amtrak back. There's a couple of pretty decent lines to go west from here. There's the Southwest Chief that I didn't take. That's the one that goes Albuquerque to Los Angeles. And I was in the LA area, and that would have made sense, but I actually wanted to go a little longer. And I did this on purpose because it was going to take about 3 days to do the traveling, and I needed to study really bad. And so I got a sleeper car on Amtrak, and I went from the LA area. I was kind of northern LA, I believe. And so I picked up the train there, went up to San Francisco, switched trains, and came across to Denver. And then Shelley picked me up in Denver. She was in Pueblo, where her mom lived at the time. And so she picked me up there. And it was a really nice 3 days. It is that's a beautiful route right there. I mean, it goes up the coast of California, which is beautiful, and then it goes across California, which I had never. I'd only flown into some of the big cities of California, all. So it went across California through, I don't know, maybe Grass Valley, Sacramento, I think, even goes right. Anyway, up there, just beautiful territory, farm country, and all that, stunning. And then you get into Nevada. It goes into Reno, Lake Tahoe, and that was stunning. Unfortunately, it gets dark after you get there, and you end up going through what it would be some very beautiful territory in the dark, and you're asleep through Nevada and Utah. Some of the Nevada territory might be kind of ugly, but you get into Utah and it's beautiful. Salt Lake City's in the middle of the night. And then you wake up and you're on the eastern side and you come into Grand Junction, Colorado, and there's a stop there. And Teddy Roosevelt's Western White House is right across the road. And you look and then you go over the Rocky Mountains through like 150 tunnels or something like this. And you end up coming to Winter Park and then down into Denver. Really, absolutely a stunning trip. And a number of years ago was not that expensive anyway. And great if you like to read, or like me, you just needed to study. Hey, it's a good way to do it. Thanks for the info about the railway there. I appreciate that. And Nancy, amen, 10,000 times over. Government should have nothing to say about my health. That's my responsibility. I totally agree. I don't even think that government should have a role in giving good advice for health. You know, you got, I don't know, you all remember the food pyramid back in the day. Do they still have the food? It seemed like they changed the food pyramid. But you know, there's one. You're supposed to eat all these carbs at the bottom of the bread and the rice and all that, and then a bunch of vegetables, and that was foundational, and then a little bit of milk and a little bit of lobster, and then you know, up here you got the meats, and then you got the sweets, the frosting of the cake, and you know, so we'll even skip the whole conversation about all the bad things about the food pyramid or the 4 food groups. When I was growing up, it was the 4 food groups that we were taught. Now, can't tell you what they are, but, you know, I don't know, pretzels and donuts and something like that. But I agree with you, Nancy, that I don't even think government has a constitutional role in educating the public about how to eat or how to wash their hands, any of that. Why is that a governmental job? Why not? You know, if it's important, and I certainly health education is important, but can't, you know, associations of doctors do that, or hygienists, or just, you know, people out there who study it? Do we really need a gajillion-dollar government organization that tells us the best way to eat? And yet we've come to expect that it's a legitimate thing for the government to create the food pyramid. Not legitimate at all. And this is one of the areas that, you know, even the good presidents, like the one we currently have, you know, he tried to get rid of some regulation and whatnot, but it wasn't a platform of Donald Trump to get rid of the, you know, National Institute of Health or all of those gajillion agencies that are out there. And that's the deep state that's really running things today, because that bureaucratic deep state is the are the people like a Dr. Fauci that can have and do have there's 1,000 other Dr. Faucis that you don't know about in various parts of government, and they are carrying out their very controlling ways in ways that are less public than Dr. Fauci, but they're there. So, Nancy, I totally agree with you that government doesn't have anything to say, or shouldn't have anything to say about my health. It's my responsibility. It is. And, we got so used to it. The Surgeon General warning that, whatever, smoking cigarettes is harmful to your health. Again, is it a governmental job? It probably became a governmental job because government got into healthcare, into paying for healthcare, into Medicare, and then they said, hey, we got all these people dying of lung cancer. We need to warn them. And the thing just grows and 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 grows until someday it suffocates you. And I think that's where we're at now. Nancy would probably agree with me. And through that, or in that, Stephen in Winston-Salem, speaking of smoking, Winston-Salem, the government had so much to do with my brother's death in Vietnam, and my brother cooperated by becoming a paratrooper. I don't know enough about the government fiasco in Vietnam other than to say it was a fiasco, wasn't it? Dan, this is a good one. Are you worried about losing your channel by taking the election scenario? Taking, either one. Yes, I won't be silenced. YouTube the other day said they were going to take down anybody who contested the election. I'm contesting the election. Nathan is currently working on a format to get us to keep us going, keep us broadcasting. We could do it right now if we had to. And, there are some other options out there, even publicly available options like Vimeo, for example. If we had to, at this point, there's not a governmental silencing. There is a big tech silencing. Fortunately, you can get around big tech. The problem with getting around it and what Nathan's working on trying to solve the problem is that we do so much live streaming, and live streaming is a lot of bandwidth, and a lot of bandwidth is expensive. To watch live is far more expensive than to watch after the fact, because after the fact, the size of it's reduced down and it's controllable a little bit how it goes out. But anyway, Nathan's working on that so that the day after tomorrow, when we get cut off, that we'll still be able to do something. That I've been reprimanded from Facebook a number of times, and they send me to quiet time for 30 days. And it's happened before, and I'm sure it'll happen again. And I think it's all likely going to go away. And so I think ministries like ours need to have a backup plan. Probably even not a backup plan. They just need to move to that plan. And things like Facebook and YouTube have to become supplemental, that it's out there kind of like, cast your bread upon the waters and after many days it'll return to you. That's one of the reasons we do Facebook. Not very many people just watch an entire video on Facebook, but people do scroll on Facebook and they accidentally run into one, and maybe I'm talking about something interesting and they stick around and listen. You don't very often as much accidentally come to YouTube. So we keep it on Facebook. I think the time's probably going to come when both Facebook and YouTube will just be, a little bait out there and try to go somewhere else. Now, that does remind me of something. Wow. Let's talk about your role in that as the audience. The audience is pretty, what shall I say, accustomed to, let's say, YouTube. You know how to use it. You know where the buttons are. You know all that kind of stuff. So audiences are slow to move. They know the problem, but they're slow to move. So when something does happen, with this ministry, another ministry or whatever, be sure to know how to get in touch with the ministry, to know where to go to know how to find it. randywhiteministries.org. To get in touch, say, hey, how come you're not there anymore? And don't assume if your favorite ministry suddenly disappears, don't assume they just got tired and decided not to do it. It very well could be that they got bumped off and are unable to do it. I think it is a real issue. And, I think that the time will come when it will actually be the government that silences. It's going to be a while because we do have the First Amendment. But if the court systems don't care anything about what is either, I'm just going to say fraud. They don't care anything about fraud because it's either election fraud or publicity fraud, can I say? And they ought to want to take care of either one of them. The courts ought to say, hey, we either have fraud or we have a large part of a political party, including the president, who is telling everyone that there is fraud. So courts ought to want to set that straight. If they don't even want to set that straight, I'm not too fond of the court system right now. If they don't want to set that straight, then are they going to care that Randy White gets, the government silences him and Randy White, puts forth a lawsuit because I have constitutional rights? All they have to do is say, nah, based upon standing, we're not taking that. And there's no recourse. If the court decides not to take it, they didn't take it. There's no recourse. You're stuck. So I think that more and more will be a problem. Scott, the Theological Insomniac should always be on Sunday night. It's absolutely the best time. I'm off on Mondays. For some reason, I don't know why this is, it seems like I should want to go to bed early on Sundays because I get up a little earlier on Sundays and, I do 2 Bible studies on Sundays. Like today, I got out of the house at 7:00 and I shoveled snow. Plowed snow, actually. I have this little plow, my big old hat on. You should see, it's fun. Jackson loves to go with me. So I plowed the driveway because I can't get out of the driveway, and nothing's going to keep me from being at church. So I did all that. It took me about an hour to get everything plowed so we could actually get out. And then I came in, I got cleaned up, I got ready. I left, 8:45 or so, got to the church about 9:10, 9:15. Then we shoveled snow at the church, Nathan and I, and rushed in, get on the program, do the program, do the First Thessalonians, and then, say hi to the people that are there, and then the Revelation. And then we had potluck lunch. Don't tell anybody because we're not supposed to be eating, but we had potluck lunch today. And so, I don't know, I got home at 2:30, something like that. And I took a little bit of a nap. Indeed. And then I got up and I got the snowblower and I did all that kind of stuff. And so I should be wanting to sleep on Sunday nights because Sunday's always a full day. And in times past, honestly, it's been busier for me. I mean, I used to, do Sunday night services and all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, I'm just always kind of wired up on Sundays, and I don't want to go to bed on Sundays, and I'm almost always up late on Sunday night. So, hey, maybe so. Do that. I'll have to consider that just for you. Just for you, Scott. Off on Mondays. Dan says, "Are you a barber?" Dan, you're showing your age. I don't know. Do barbers still close on Mondays? They used to always be closed on Mondays. And preachers used to always be off on Mondays, too. I don't know if that's still the case. Who knows? But we'll see about those Sunday night things. It's not a bad idea. Let's see. Oh, okay. Down to Western Australia. Nobody's paying much attention, at least not yet. That's good. It's not everywhere. I can go to the grocery store, but not the cafe without signing in. People are shaking their heads and most ignoring it. I think you're even seeing that some in California, of all places. You know, they in California they love to obey the government, but even in California they're saying this doesn't make any sense. That, you know, I can do this, but I can't do that. And supposedly it's based upon science and all of that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm behind. I'm reading 10:10 comments, and it's 10:42. Nancy, the answer is, she asked, did you sign in as Michelle Lujan? I don't want to fully answer that, but I do know the address of the governor's mansion and the phone number for the office. I heard, I was talking, let me back up to my Southern Baptist days here for a moment. You'll maybe know that I graduated from Little Southern Baptist University, Texas Baptist University, Hardin-Simmons University with a business degree. And then I went to Southwestern Seminary. A guy named Paige Patterson, maybe you've heard his name. He was president of Southwestern Seminary till he got fired for being conservative-ish in the Southern Baptist Convention. He was not president when I was there. When I was there, Russell Dilday was president. Russell Dilday was a true liberal. And things got more conservative, thankfully. But anyway, I asked Dr. Patterson once, I said, you know, rumor has it that when you were at Hardin-Simmons, you put flour in the pipes of the pipe organ in the chapel so that when the organist blared out the hymns, this would have been the 1950s, poof, flour went everywhere. I said, Dr. Patterson, is that true? He said to me, I don't know that that would be true, but a sack of flour cost $12 in those days, a 50-pound sack of flour. So, plausible deniability. Bev up in Wisconsin, good to see you. What's your thought about the Jericho March? Kooky ministers, prophets speaking. The Jericho March is a new one on me, but I'm about to find out. I have a feeling my thoughts are about like yours. Because, you know, even without knowing what it is, I think, okay, Jericho March. March around the city, play pretty music, the walls come tumbling down. So probably is some kind of word of faith, charismatic movement. What'd you say here? Kooky ministers and prophets speaking. So here they have a website, JerichoMarch.org. Let the church roar. Well, they do have a Stop the Steal hashtag. Lieutenant General Flynn's full speech at the Jericho March rally today. Okay, I guess this was today. I don't know. I guess I've been shoveling snow or something. I didn't know about it. I don't know where the rally was, but clearly not New Mexico. Um, so they are clearly conservatives. Looks like a bunch of speeches going on there, some pictures. Purchase your own shofar. A percentage proceeds go to the Jericho March. Let's come over here just because I know how much shofars cost. And oh, goodness. Shofar so great. Has a vision of atonement. Maybe the worst marketing ever. But does it say how you buy one? The shofar shop. When you see them in these shops, they don't smell good. Did you know that? Paired sets at $600. It just seems ridiculous, doesn't it? But that's probably about what you would pay if you go to Israel. They're very expensive. I suppose they're expensive, one, because they do come from, exotic animals. It's not the deer in Randy's yard that get antlers like that. And there's only 2 per animal, and you got to gather them, and I don't know how they do all those things. And sometimes they are jeweled up and decorated and all that kind of stuff. So they are pretty expensive. So I just wondered if they were overpricing those, but it doesn't look like. But almost always, when you have promotions like this, purchase your own shofar. That is, again, word of faith kind of stuff. I remember a guy a couple of years ago, right here in Taos. He told me that he was going up onto the Taos Mountain, and he was going to blow the shofar. And he was a charismatic type. And was going to do that. I was looking for a picture of the mountain here. But let's see here. Maybe I can I took a picture not long ago because I went out one morning and there we go. See if I can pull that up. There we go. There is the Taos Mountain, as we call it. Pueblo Peak, I believe, is its real name. And it's, it's always pretty like that when the snow is a morning after snow and the clouds kind of hover down on it and the trees still have some white on it. Well, he was going to go up to the top and he was going to blow the shofar because there's a satanic darkness over Taos. And my thinking, honestly, was, what good is that going to do? If you don't get yourself killed, by the way, because it belongs to the Taos Pueblo, the Pueblo Indians, and it is holy ground, and they really are likely to shoot now, ask questions later, if a white man is up on their property. On that mountain, by the way, is Blue Lake, and it was just this week that they celebrated 50 years of getting Blue Lake back from Richard Nixon. He gave this land back to the Taos Pueblo Indians. And if you go to the Richard Nixon Library in Yorba Linda, you go in, you always go to a movie first. You sit there and you see the movie. They actually mention Taos and the Taos Indians, and they show Richard Nixon right here in Taos giving Blue Lake back right there on that mountain. I'm diverging or digressing, am I not, of our beautiful mountain right there. But by the way, I should also say, go over to the next peak behind it, and it's Taos Ski Valley. You can, if you want to go to the top of a mountain, you don't have to climb it. You can pay a little bit of money and ride the ski lift up to the top and blow your shofar there. But again, it's almost always kind of bind Satan. If you blow the shofar, word of faith, there's some vibrations of sound that take place, and this actually changes something. So I would guess that the problem I have, and I don't fault Mike Flynn, Lieutenant General Flynn, for going and giving a speech. It's probably a very good speech, is my guess. I don't fault him for going to it, because they're politicians. They go where there's a crowd of people, especially a crowd of people that's somewhat friendly to them, and this crowd would be very friendly to them. Again, just the title of it, Jericho March, tells me that probably, here's my guess on it, they've got the right politics. They need to learn to rightly divide. And because of that, I probably wouldn't join in with them. I would agree with their politics, but it's just like, President Trump and Paula White and, all the sort of collection of kooky preachers he's got around him sometimes. And Word of Faith people tend to be conservative Republicans. They just need to watch us a little more and learn how to rightly divide the word of truth. Tara, back to the comment earlier again. Bozeman is where all the rich Californians move to because it's so close to Yellowstone and Jackson Hole. So it was some old-time Bozeman people talking about, the way Bozeman used to be, and they would never go back there. And I got the hint that it had been taken over by liberals, and I wasn't sure if it was a university thing or what it was. Let's see. Should Trump declare, Dan up in Colorado, good to see you. Should Trump declare martial law over the election shenanigans? That's essentially what Brandon House is promoting. I'm a bit leery. This is a hard one. I would agree that there is this situation in which there is certainly evidence of fraud. The evidence has been presented. I'm going to pretend like I don't even believe the evidence here for just a moment. People have presented a lot of evidence for fraud, but nobody, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody in any kind of official capacity has said that evidence is bogus. They have just said, we don't want to hear the evidence. No. Well, that is problematic. That is really a clear and present danger to the continued existence of our country. And so some, like perhaps Brandon House, are promoting martial law, because with martial law, then the president can come in, as I understand it, can come in and take possession of the voting machines and the envelopes and all that kind of stuff that should have been taken care of, and can do it. Now, I think there are the two problems you would come upon anyway. I think we're at the point, choose this problem or choose that problem. But the problems you come out with martial law are that, one, it would be very politically unpopular for a president to declare martial law, especially a president they've been saying, he's a Nazi, he's Hitler. And then he comes out just, looking like, I'm never leaving this place. You'll have to pry what's the desk, the Resolute desk? You'll have to, pry it out of my cold, dead hands. So politically, even among conservatives, that's a hard one to sell. Then the problem with it is you've got at least half of the nation that doesn't like him anyway, and that half of the nation has the bullhorn, the microphone, the media. The other half of the nation has the guns, by the way, but this half of the leftist half has the microphone. That half, even if the military takes over, they say, "Hey, yeah, you're exactly right. These machines were cooked. They rigged the election." This half is not going to believe it. And then the story forevermore is going to be Donald Trump stole the White House by using martial law. And would the government, would the military even go for it? In a sense, they have to. They're commander in chief, but would they? The other choice is you let the election be stolen and don't say anything about it. That's a terrible choice as well. Dan, sadly, maybe we've come to the point of saying we have to just wake up and say the United States of America as we know it doesn't exist anymore. Either we can save it by martial law, in which case you do it once, it'll be done, next time and next time and next time and next time, and we could go the direction of a dictatorship that way. You don't do it, we go in the direction of a dictatorship this way. That a nation brings itself, a republic like ours brings itself to that point of following down the road, not taking this turn and not taking that turn and not taking another turn, all these turns it could have taken, and it stays on this track until you get to the point that there's just a fork in the road and you can go to this death camp or that death camp. And I'm not so sure, I hate to say it, but I'm not, nobody will sleep now. I'm not so sure that's not what we've done, that we have already exhausted our options as a nation. And done that and carried that out. Are there any options that he can do without martial law? I've heard about this executive order. If there's foreign interference, the president, can you basically make a decree, which is it's kind of a miniature martial law. If that's the case, and they can show foreign interference, that may be the problem, because it seems like most of the problem here has been domestic. So I wish I just had a really good answer on that issue, and my problem is that I don't have a really good answer on that issue. But if somebody comes up with a good answer on that issue, let me know. Thanks, Dan. Good to see you up in the western slope of Colorado. Glad to have you here. Tammy in Wichita Falls, good to see you. Very cold there. Wichita Falls is the coldest place in the world and the hottest place in the world. Go in the summer, it's the hottest place in the world. Go in the winter, it's the coldest place in the world. You know it. At least when it gets cold here, we can look at this and all the good, pretty stuff that we have right here. I see. I've got some pictures. Let's see. Here's some pictures I took just this morning. I took this actually on my way to church. I stopped just down the driveway and took a picture because it just looks so beautiful. There was the snow from this morning, trying to figure out how much we had there. That's Nathan's little house right there. The back side of it through the woods. And there it is, a little brighter there. The woods that were just so nice. There's the little camper. I've mentioned that sometimes I don't do Ask the Theologian because we put guests in the little camper, and so that's the little camper the guests stay in there. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you some pretty scenes. That one was yesterday there, by the way. So, yeah. Gets a little cold here sometimes, but it's beautiful. Did you see, those of you who are on Facebook probably saw some of this. Let's see if I can get that. He comes every afternoon to visit us, and him and his friends there, they were enjoying a little snow snack. They come and get alfalfa tablets, or sometimes corn, just depends on which we're going to feed him. That's Big Daddy there that comes up. Okay, sorry, I don't know how I got from Wichita Falls to that. Well, I just keep showing my pictures. There's our... I've always called them Blue Jays because they look like Blue Jays. But I put one on the internet not long ago, and someone told me. I learned something. They said they are Stellar's Jay. Stellar's Jay. And so there's our Stellar's Jay. Here's one eating the bird food. I like to feed the birds in the winter. It's fun. You sit there, see them. Got this little window bird feeder there. There's a little, what is that? Chickadee, maybe? I don't know. That is there. So, okay, sorry, got sidetracked. And when it's the Theological Insomniac, I can get sidetracked. It's okay, isn't it? We don't have to go to bed, right? Mossy Man, good to see you. West Coast, Los Angeles, California. So it's early for you, isn't it? Glad you are with us tonight. And blessings to you. Okay, let me get caught up here. Whitehall, Montana. We got another Montana person here, and there's Ray from Sacramento, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Montana. Got lots of Westerners here tonight. That's because it's Theological Insomniac, and you're up late. And it's always fun to be up late. He blocks everyone. That's an old conversation. I guess I don't feel special anymore. I just thought it was me. Chuck, good to see you in Oklahoma. Welcome. Ray. Ray, where are you from? I'm trying to remember. But here's the question. Galatians, usually thought to be written early, 49 AD or so. KJV has an endnote saying it was written from Rome, which would make it late. Any idea why KJV translators would put this in? Interesting. I know that there is a debate about the dating of Galatians. I typically put it early as well. And I am not familiar with the notes. I'm going to go here and see at let's go to the end of Galatians. I'm on this electronic copy, and it may or may not have the notes here. Let's just see if I can get to the end of Galatians. There we go. I do not have a marginal note on mine there. Let's see here. Let's jump over. I was looking for a marginal note here on the KJV. Let's see. The likeness to Romans, this is Bullinger on the left, is noticeable. Although the epistle was written before that to the Romans, Paul had taught the Galatians the same truth as the records in the later epistle. Galatians has been happily likened to a sketch for a finished picture. Okay, I thought I saw the word later there, and I thought that that might Let's see. Here's the day. I thought it might speak to it. Galatians was most probably written in Macedonia, the winter of AD 57 or the spring of AD 58. So he puts it a little later than most, seems like. Ray, if you have let's see, you can't do a screenshot of that on Facebook, can you? But if you have a reference to that somewhere, we can look at that online. I would love to see that. I'm curious. Is it a note of the King James translators, or is it a note in your particular study Bible? I was looking online to see if I could find anything quickly. So I'm gonna look into that more, Ray, because I'm not real familiar with their note. I'd love to see that. Appreciate that. Yeah, Mossy Man, come on in. The water's fine. Blessing. Sarah, good to see you in Wisconsin. It's a comment to Bev, who was asking about the Jericho March. The craziness of Pentecostals and Catholics at the Trump rally Saturday made me very uncomfortable as well. My liberal family puts me with them. This is one of the problems why I'm sometimes uncomfortable with those things, because those who aren't real involved in Christianity, they don't know that, Randy White is different than Paula White. Some people even aware don't know. They think I'm her former husband. That's a different Randy White. But it's just all lumped together in their mind, and it does kind of cause a problem. I think it would be, I can't prove this. Maybe there's a way to prove it. I think that 50 years ago, prior to the time where denominations started losing their denominational identity, and the first thing that started was the taking the name off the sign out front, to where you're just First Church instead of First Baptist Church or Methodist Church or Presbyterian Church. I think back in those days, the world, granted it was a little more Christian, but it also understood that, this preacher is not like those preachers. I think that back in the day, maybe people knew, I'll use a Baptist illustration, people knew that there was a difference between George W. Truett and J. Frank Norris. George W. Truett was the pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. J. Frank Norris was the pastor of First Baptist Church in Fort Worth. And they had very public arguments with one another. Almost, you might even say, a public animosity towards one another, and that was known that that was the case. Now today, and I saw a conversation like this just the other day. Someone put what I thought was a fairly standard kind of meme that basically taught the exclusivity of Christianity. And just, bingo, just like that, a young seminarian came on and said, there's a lost world watching, and this is poor for evangelism, and this is no way to be winsome towards the lost, and the arguments that go there. I think that that it was a good thing that people understood that George W. Truett was different than J. Frank Norris. And by the way, through most of my career, I probably would have aligned with George W. Truett. Now that I actually read the Bible and I know a little bit of history, I would definitely align with J. Frank Norris. J. Frank Norris was the sword of the Lord, the Bible teaching fundamentalist, I think it was a good thing that people knew there was differences, is what I'm saying. Today they don't know, and so you get this Jericho stuff, and you get these name it and claim it preachers out there, and these so-called prophets, claiming that God has given them a vision that Donald Trump is going to be in the White House on January the 21st, and it honestly is a harmful thing. So what can we do? The only thing that I really know to do is just let people know that we're different, that there are differences in Christianity, that mid-Acts is not Acts 28, and that mid-Acts is not Acts 2, and that Baptists are not Presbyterians, and all these other things that have taken place. Excellent, Sarah. I appreciate the good comment there. Up in Washington State, I'm Eimer. Good to see you. I love the gift I got from you. Also, the body of Christ not going to be judged at the judgment seat of Christ. You're not going to have any Baptist friends anymore if you keep talking like that. The whole judgment thing, I've talked about that so many times that I think there's a lot. You can read a lot more in the theology books than you can in the Bible. Moss Man, I've not been to a church in a year or so. Does Randy know any good Bible Christ-centered churches in Los Angeles? Let's try this. Los Angeles obviously is a big place, and you are not allowed to breathe right now. I have preached at some in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles area. All of the churches that I have preached at are independent fundamentalist churches, good dispensational churches. I don't know that I would necessarily call them right dividing churches, but good solid dispensational churches. They invite me because I hold a King James Version and I spit every now and then, so I fit with the independent fundamentalists. I can do that, and I like them. I consider myself one, basically. But the independent fundamentalists would not invite me to be into their guild, so to speak, because I do. I don't hold to the Acts 2 position, which most of them do. These particular churches, I'm not completely sure. In your background, would want to do a little diagnosis before I totally go there. But randywhiteministries.org. No, Randy at randywhiteministries.org. Send me, Mossy Man. Send me an email, and I will let you know about it, a couple of those. But there is a grace directory. I'm not sure about all of the grace directories. Again, there's so many different families there. But I'm on this one, and I kind of like the guy. I don't know him very well, but he and I chat every now and then. The WWURD. He, in fact, I've talked to him about coming on our Ask the Theologian program because he, like me, he came out of evangelicalism. And so he and I just have a lot in common. I think we could chat about some things. But let's go to California and see if there's anything in this directory. Our ministry is in this directory. And so I know, because our ministry is here, that he does some diagnosis, doesn't just, put them on the list. Okay, there's not much here in California, but let's see what towns we got. There's Sacramento, that's too far. San Juan Capistrano, I don't remember where that is. Southgate, I don't know where that is. Carmichael. Seems like that's Southern California, isn't it? But again, I'm not terrible. There's a Los Angeles Magnificent Word Fellowship. Brendan Quintana. I can't. It looks like they didn't answer some of the questions here. So I'm, might be a little bit suspicious of that, but hey, worth looking into. What's this one? San Diego, probably too far for you, and Folsom. I'm not sure where that is. Interesting. Oh, this is just a home study. I was going to say there's a lady's name there, which was not typically, but it's some kind of a home study there. And who knows? Maybe they watch Randy White Ministries videos. I don't know. But, here's the sad thing. Los Angeles is what? The second largest city in America. And I previously came from Houston, which argues with Chicago on which is number 3 and which is number 4. But Houston, even more so than Los Angeles, you should be able to find a gajillion good churches. In Houston, there's 4 million people. Surely there's a bunch of good churches there, right? I think that if you move to the Houston area today, there might be 4 churches that, are pretty solid in the word, at least that are well enough known that, and these none of them would be big churches. It's just terrible. And Los Angeles probably is worse than Houston. So if Houston of 4 million has 4, what's Los Angeles got? I don't know. Are there 2? And I think so many of you agree with me. A lot of you either quit going to church because you just simply can't stomach the bad theology that is there. And, you're going to hurt somebody if you don't get out of there. And so you saw, hey, it's best if I just move on. And you live in smaller towns or big towns, whatever, and there's just not any good choices there. Either that or you go to a church and you do it just for the fellowship and you have the gift of biting your tongue. And maybe you've bitten it off so that you don't, spew out at them when you hear just some of the ridiculous stuff that's on out there. So I would just say, oh, I didn't mean to leave that up forever. I thought it was me. I'm operating the buttons. Sorry about that. You got a good look at the website though, didn't you? And find all those addresses there. But I would just say, I kind of feel your pain, Mossy Man. But send me an email. Maybe I can help you a little bit. Randy at randywhiteministries.org. And again, it's sad that there's not a whole bunch because there should be. And yet I'm not surprised at all that you're having that challenge there. We have a number of listeners from the Los Angeles area. Maybe we should have a Los Angeles Dispensational Fellowship meeting sometime. Chuck, let's see. I never heard anything more of you teaching through the book, the Patrick Henry book. You, sir, would do a great job teaching it. I appreciate that. I've been sitting on it. You all know we have this book, Patrick Henry. We're about to come out with John Adams as well. And Chuck has said, hey, sometime, not Thursday, not Wednesday, you ought to do this extra special and teach that book because Chuck thinks I'm a good teacher. And I actually would love it because I like to teach and I like to study and I like history. And I might someday, do a Monday night history study or something like that. I have to, make sure I don't make my wife mad or anything like that. And the challenge is the preparation. It's not so much the on-air time of doing it. It's the preparation that goes on. So I'm not going to say no, but maybe. Nancy says Marmot is a whistle pig here in Colorado. What is a whistle pig? Is that a real thing? Or is that like a figure of speech? I just looked it up. We got Whistle Pig Rye Whiskey. Oh, well, how about that? Pardon the whiskey pictures, but there's also pictures of marmots. There we go. I have seen those. Only, I don't know. I've seen some version of it in Israel, and I've seen them in Colorado at high altitudes, only at high altitudes. I don't know if the one in Israel is the same thing. And I didn't know they were called a whistle pig. It does say marmot. I was just making sure I got that right. But there you go. Whistle pig there. How about that? I got my whistle pig jacket on. Or pullover or shirt or whatever you call that. See what we got here today. Catching up. 12 miles from Redondo Beach. I don't know my California geography well enough to know. Am I mistaken that that's north of LA? Where's the map? Let's just find out. You all don't know where it is either, do you? I mean, you want to know where Mossy Man lives. No, it's south. Okay. It's this little pin right here. Here's Los Angeles. So I was up in Santa Clarita, which is up here. I guess you could, it's Sunday morning. You could get on, what is this? Oh, that number just keeps getting smaller. Whatever that interstate is, drive all the way up there's the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church. Also over here in the somewhere Arcata area, I think it was. All on this northern end anyway is where I have been a part of. But let's see if we can figure something out for you. Maybe. Dan talking about the train ride. I get so far behind in these. Everyone should take Amtrak at least once. Go first class, though. Best steak I ever had. They did have a pretty good steak. As a matter of fact, I was fairly impressed with the meals. I got as I said, I got the sleeper car. And with the sleeper car, you get your food is included. And I was pretty impressed with the meal. With all the meals, the only thing I would say about them is if you're taking a long trip on the same line, from what I could tell, they just serve the same food every day. You get like 5 choices. But after a while, if you only like 3 of them, maybe, then you start getting it and you would eat it the same. So a cross country trip, I don't know. I took a half cross country trip, and not even half, maybe a third. I don't know what it is. From San Francisco to Denver, but I really enjoyed it. I would like to do it again, and carry all that out. Lisa. Speaking of the food pyramid, the goal is to make you sick and pharma dependent. And they've done a good job, isn't it? Haven't they? So many people pharma dependent. I'm just kind of allergic to medicine. I don't want to take it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to put that stuff in my body. I'm just not interested. I suppose, if I was diagnosed with something terrible, I probably would take some medicine for it. But I would question the assumptions on everything they gave me. If I went to the doctor today and he said you're fat and your blood pressure is high and you talk too much and all that kind of stuff, so we need to give you this pill, I would say, what's the options? What's the non-pill option? That's what I want to do. And would go with that. But, I think we'd kind of like the shortcut. But you're right. A lot of it's an education thing that, they say, your carbs are high or your cholesterol. That's what I'm trying to say. Your cholesterol's high and you got to bring it down. You got to take this medicine. And because going back to 100 years ago to the beginning of the program, because we just say, government, tell us, almighty government, what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to think. Because we have that mindset, we never question the assumptions about whether having a lot of cholesterol is really a bad thing. Is that a problem or is that a symptom? Is that what's going to cause our heart attack? All those we never ask the questions. And unfortunately, today in the medical world, they begin to ask the questions and the doctors get shunned because the medical world has sold its soul to the government devil and they bow down to the government devil now. So any doctor, and we've seen this in COVID, any doctor that comes out with a different avenue, a different path, a different thought, they're immediately sequestered, put into solitary confinement and maybe lose their license and all that kind of stuff because they're practicing medicine, doing what they're supposed to do. Doctors have just sold their profession out as far as I'm concerned. Any doctors here, I'd love to hear that I'm different. But in that, then your cholesterol's high, you got to take this pill. We don't ask, is it a problem that my cholesterol's high? We don't ask, is there another way to bring my cholesterol down without taking the pill? We just are in such a mindset that says, oh, yeah, the doctor says I got to take a chlorothromcaucasin and take 2 a day and it's all going to be fine. And we go on eating the food pyramid or whatever we're doing and not changing anything. I think maybe I'm wrong and just sort of blessed here, but I think we can kind of tell when what we're doing is not working. And, when it's time to cut back, when it's time to, whatever it is, eat more, all this kind of stuff. And if we would just listen to our body a little more, I think we'd be so much better. Dan, isn't that sad? I remember when the first Insomniac show, when COVID first started, we did start because of COVID, who could sleep? And it's been all this time, 15 days, right? Terrible. Personal responsibility. Where has it gone? Amen. Just for kicks. I totally agree with you on that. Speaking of train rides, I have considered, but I've never found a good, it was always too expensive. I've considered trying to figure out how we could do a little Randy White Ministries train ride trip, where we all, meet in Denver and we ride here and there and we take a few stops along the way and we have some Bible teaching and all that and we just sit. And maybe in that case, it might not even have to be, say, first class. Maybe we could, because if we could get the whole car, then you don't mind sitting close to a stranger if you know that there are people that like to talk about the Bible, and we could look and all that kind of stuff, and I could even talk in the car. So it's a very smooth ride. I was very impressed. Smooth and quiet, and we could have some fun with it. But every time I look and check it out, it's like, it's a lot of money for people to spend, and so I haven't done it. But people go on vacation, so maybe we will. Who knows? Maybe we will. Tara, I appreciate this, and you're exactly right. Need to start taking those single profound statements you make with all the feels and get their attention. Making little clips. We've done some of this in the past, but it's been a long time. We've sort of gotten busy and haven't done it. And the challenge on it is somebody has to listen and catch and say, that was profound, absolutely profound. And, then cut it at this point and at that point. Maybe, some volunteer wants to say, hey, today in the sermon, You know, when you said from this point to that point, you had this great point about points. You should clip that and put that out there. That would be helpful if anybody ever comes across one of those. Just give the start time and the end time on YouTube, and we need to get those out. I appreciate that. Thank you for the good word and the comment there. And Tara's talking about snow and Butte because she came from Oklahoma. And in Oklahoma, when it snows, it's wet. Here in the West, it's the same way here. When it snows, it's so dry, she says, we leaf blow it. And you can. You know, we do that. I keep a leaf blower on the back porch and, blow it off. It works, unless you get like 12 inches and then you're blowing all day long. Or if you step on it. Crushed snow doesn't work very good. So, I have, because we live at 8,600 feet, we got a lot of snow. And I have a electric blower that I also, on this, I mean, not a leaf blower, a regular snow blower that you get at Home Depot if you live in snow country, and you plug it in, and it works really good for the patio that is not covered to keep that snow off. And then I have a gas one for the lawn, for the driveway and things like that. Works well. Scott says, I lost an uncle to snow shoveling and another family friend. You are exactly right. I have been told, I've never known anybody that had a heart attack or died from snow shoveling, but I have been told that it is one of the leading causes of heart attacks for men. Something about, I don't know if it's the temperature mixed with the work or what it is, but it can be a dangerous thing to do a lot of that. And I've even been told, people have warned me, because I'm elderly, that even the snow blowers are dangerous. Even though it's easier, you do it longer. And so you don't really realize that you're exhausting yourself. Probably it is a heart attack waiting to happen, and then you get out there and you exert yourself like that, and it unfortunately, you're exactly right. That often happens. Speaking of the food pyramid, Scott's coming through. Fess up, Doc. You had a big Diet Coke this evening, didn't you? What are you talking about? In my Whataburger cup. This is a permanent one. I have to drive a long way to Whataburger. Plausible deniability. Now that's a blessing. Scott says mask wearing here in the Hill Country is about 10%. Those that are transplants living in their second homes. I wish that was the case here. I've had a number of people, some of you friends that have come here to see us in Taos and whatnot, say that Taos is about the strongest that they've been to in mask wearing. But it's a liberal community. I think that the more liberal places you go to, the more they obey government rules. I'm going to look up something here before I even bring this up. Yeah, there's a couple of them. Does anybody know about this? I'm trying to find, and you'll see in a moment why I kind of want to be careful about what I'm bringing up on the screen here. There's a couple of things I have seen lately that show. Sorry, every website I bring up is just a little bit weird. This one, I have no idea anything about this webpage, but it'll work. Are face masks and COVID rituals occultist symbols for submission? I don't know what position they take on this, but that issue right here, occultist symbols for submission. I've seen some pictures in which Satan worshipers have a mask on and they're standing 6 feet apart, and that these things are related. Again, I would say when you go to doing a internet search on occultic things, kind of be careful what you're doing and what you get into there. But maybe the reason you don't see as much of it in the hill country is there aren't as many cultists. Maybe it's just the government cult. But if anybody has any experience in that, and you know more about that, and I'm always a little leery because, things like this run and people make stuff up. Remember Mike Warnke in the 80s and the things that people make up. But maybe I can find a Facebook post here that had a picture. I don't want to incriminate anybody on it. There we go. Let me see here. Yeah. 6 feet apart wearing masks. Does this sound familiar? You're taking part in a Luciferian ritual willingly. Now, you see the picture here, 6 feet apart, wearing mask, a Luciferian ritual, and the ritual goes on to say, I'm getting it where you can't see this whole screen here because I want to protect the innocent. In satanic rituals, they stand 6 feet apart and wear masks. And there's the picture. Now, I don't know if the picture is true or not. Goes on here, the global occult ritual of mask wearing signals your consent to your new subservient position under your new masters and the loss of your position as a vocal representative of or a mouthpiece for the word of God on the earth. And it talks about social distancing as well through there. Now, again, that's easy stuff to make up because most of us aren't friends with a Satanist, fortunately. We don't know a whole lot of people that take part in Luciferian rituals. And so, it's easy for somebody to even create a website and all this and show what is going on and taking place there. And you can come up with a lot of hoaxes. So I don't know if there's any validity to it there. And again, it's something that I think most people need to be kind of careful doing the research because you can bring up all sorts of garbage into your computer and whatnot as you're doing that as well. Unfortunate. Speaking of Paige Patterson, says, love Paige Patterson. Paige Patterson really was, he through the years has been very good to me. He invited me to preach several times at Southwestern Seminary in Chapel, invited me to preach at Southeastern Seminary. When he was president there, he always expressed appreciation for what I was doing in trying to say the Southern Baptist Convention is going the wrong way. He totally knew it and, talked long enough and until he got fired. I remember him telling me one day, though, that when I was about to get fired from something, he said, I'd never hire a guy if I hadn't been fired. He was that kind of guy. He's sort of always ready for a battle. And I appreciate, obviously I wouldn't agree with totally 100% of everything that he said and does, but boy, I'd agree with most of it. Wild Times, good to see you. And you said where you were from the other day, and I forgot where it was. Help me out again. But here's the question. Regarding our conversation earlier this week regarding us being created in the likeness of God or Adam, you had mentioned that no DNA had changed, but it did because death was introduced. Maybe. Now, you could argue that. You could argue that that DNA was programmed to reproduce itself perhaps forever. And that's kind of what DNA does. It tells the cells, what you're supposed to do. And I don't know, I've heard every 7 years you're a totally different person because your cells have completely changed themselves. And they do so, of course, according to the instructions that come from the DNA. Now, would it necessarily be true that for us to die, the DNA had to change? The reason I wouldn't argue that is because it seems to me that the tree of life, which was in the garden, and that by eating the tree of life, you were able to continue to live. And God took them out of the garden because they would be able to eat of the tree of life and live forever. So coming out of the garden didn't change their DNA, it changed their position. It changed their ability to get to the tree of life. And therefore, the DNA was not changed. Now, I'm open to a different idea if you've got one, but I think that prohibition of coming back to the tree of life, it looked like if they could get to the tree of life, then they would live forever. And I don't see that as, I don't think the scripture actually answers this question. I don't see it as if you take one bite of the tree of life, you are going to live forever. I see it as you need access to the tree of life where you can eat of the tree of life and you live forever. It's kind of interesting that when you get to the new heaven and the new earth, you've got the tree of life. When you got in the millennium, there is the tree of life. It provides the healing of the nations, for example. So maybe we still have the same DNA. And maybe, by the way, this is one of the reasons that mankind used to live so long, not because he had the tree of life, and not even that our DNA has changed. But rather, mankind lived so long because the environment in which man lived was better. It had the hyperbaric chamber of the firmament above prior to the flood, and the flood seems to be the tipping point here of long ages and short ages. And so maybe even I don't know. Let's say Seth. Maybe Seth had the same DNA as Methuselah, his great-grandfather, but why didn't Seth live as long as Methuselah? He didn't live as long as Methuselah because the environment had changed through the flood. And with the change of environment came death that was beginning to be at work even a little sooner. And the environment, it looks like pretty shortly after the flood, it looks like the age of man pretty well settled into, our 72 years, whatever. And you got times when it dips a little, you got times when it goes up a little. But for the most part, down through history of the last 3,000, 4,000 years, for the most part, if you live beyond, let's say, your 12th birthday, you probably were going to live to be in 70s or 80s. Some people 90s, that's been true. Now, there was a much higher death rate early on for various reasons. And of course, 100 years ago, they tried to address that with the American women entering the first big demand for federal aid to homes. That's back at the beginning of the broadcast. If anyone missed it. Now, Wild Times, if you see something different, let me know. Salty Lighthouse. There's a new one for us, too. I like that. Heard the COVID lockdown is keeping the velocity of money in check so inflation doesn't run out of control heading toward the global reset. Thoughts? I think that I'm not sure that even our economists totally have a grasp of what causes inflation and what doesn't. Let me just say I'm kind of skeptical at their expertise. I'm no economist, so maybe I'm wrong on this as well. And, obviously they're probably greater experts than I. Sorry, I had to keep reaching over there to the thermostat and getting that right. But I'm as skeptical of the government economists as I am of the government doctors. So it very well might be that this is, part of the plan and part of what they're doing. So I wouldn't put it past that there's some reality there in that is part of the plan. Whether or not it is correct, that's my question there. But keeping the velocity of money in check so inflation doesn't run out of control, heading toward the global reset. I certainly think this is all headed towards a global reset. Our governor has even called the latest lockdown in New Mexico a reset. You ought to be smart enough at least not to use trigger words like that if you're a politician, but she's not smart enough for that. I don't know how has the lockdown, I'm not asking a question, I'm saying this is what I don't know. How has the lockdown changed the velocity of money, the spending habits of Americans? Are they saving more or are they spending more? Or is it taking money out of circulation? Is it lowering the money supply, which of course would keep the value of money up? In most circumstances, I think anyway, all things being equal, and people aren't getting paid and all that kind of stuff. That certainly would change that and keep from having an inflation problem. It's an interesting proposition, Salty Lighthouse. I might have to do some more work on that and change that out. Back to the shofar. They kill an animal for that? I don't think so. I think that I should know this. I live in the mountains. I know that deer antlers and elk antlers, for example, they fall off every year. I suppose that it's the same for an ibex, so all you have to do is go out then and find them. I doubt that they actually cut them off. Israel's pretty environmentalist, maybe almost leftist in that regard. So I doubt that the Jewish people are killing the ibex to get the the shofar off of them. I suspect that they fall off. Although I don't know if that's the same. Surely they don't. Maybe they cut them off like a rhino, in the tusk. But I don't think the horns are like a tusk. I think they're a little different there. But wish I knew. Wish I knew. God, I should catch up here. I'm way behind. Y'all are always talkative on... And I've been watching the numbers online. And you're sticking with us. Staying up. What is it? Almost midnight. I was thinking and did research. This is Wild Times. I was thinking, did research on this and found our DNA chain, TET2, is of interest. I'm definitely not saying that I'm correct, only fascinated by God's creation as in anatomy. I agree with you, and I agree that it's fascinating stuff. I think DNA is fascinating stuff. I think DNA speaks so much to God and creation and the whole almost like computer system, advanced computer system that is going on within us in DNA. It is interesting. Nancy says, I assume Nancy did her research, or maybe she just knows this. The horns can only be taken from dead animals. Evidently, they get the horns from slaughterhouses. That's interesting. Do slaughterhouses have ibex? I don't know. You know, I used to live in Kaufman, Texas, and there was a horse slaughter plant there. Did you know that? It's actually became kind of a big thing on the news, and they ended up having to close it down because it got known that it was a horse. It didn't have a sign in it. I mean, we kind of knew. People told me, hey, they slaughter horses there and send them to Japan. Didn't mean to bring that up so close to lunch. But let's see here. You need a sleigh for the deer. I do. I do need a sleigh for the deer. Nathan and I were talking yesterday. When we were out yesterday, I showed those pictures, and I said that was from yesterday. He and I went out and just took a little drive. I was talking about this picture here, a little drive up into the mountains, and I said, a fella could make money hitching on outside of COVID years, hitching a trailer onto his pickup truck and putting some hay on there and selling little hay rides, even if you didn't have a sleigh. Put some bells on your pickup and go on. A fella, come out here, have a little campfire, cook some hot dogs, all that kind of stuff. A fella could make some money. But it would be even better if you had sleigh. I mean, you could definitely have a big old sleigh out there and go all that. Yeah, definitely. You could do it. Lisa, this is an important question. Does your window bird feeder ever fall off? I was showing you pictures of the window bird feeder. There's one with our woodpecker in it. It never falls off. I've had it for about a year on 2 different windows, and never once has it fallen off. I don't know if it makes a difference whether you're in a humid area or not a humid area or whatnot, but anyway, mine never falls off. And then, as you can see, that's a pretty big bird in there, the woodpecker. I mean, it's not giant, but it's pretty big. But I have had a problem lately. I don't know if you can see the little bird food he's eating. It's got a little red string around it. It's a little seed cake kind of thing that we sell some on Dispensational Publishing. That one's like in the shape of a heart, and I stick them in there. They sit there. The birds like them, especially the pecking birds. They don't want to just dig in the little bowl there. They want to peck on something. And but the last 2 days, something has stolen the little cake, and I thought it was the deer, but I don't see any deer tracks there underneath. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard for a big bird to get. But anyway, that's my problem. I need to get a little camera to see who's stealing my seed cakes. They're not supposed to do that, but it never falls off the window. That's the good thing. And yeah, Linda's right. You Westerners aren't up late. The Easterners are. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Westerners. This is like Ask the Theologian for those of you on the West Coast, right? Just for Kicks lives in North Idaho. Where in Idaho? I love Idaho. Coeur d'Alene area up there somewhere. Is that North Idaho? So beautiful. We've got a number of listeners in Idaho. As a fact, Stephen was on here earlier. He's down in Idaho Falls, Southern. But what a beautiful state. I love, honestly, I love the West. I don't know. It's good weather. There's a spirit about it that I like. Unfortunately, it's been taken over by liberals. But Colorado used to be great, but it's kind of a has-been. California took over, and it's a different place than what it has been. I think even those in California would agree. New Mexico's always been tripping over itself and behind and everything, but it's beautiful. And Wyoming, I was born in Wyoming. Maybe that's why I like the West. But honestly, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, parts of some of Utah, but Utah's got a little different flavor to it. But I love those Rocky Mountain states, basically. And if anyone is considering moving, those are good places. They have tended to be politically conservative. Again, you in California, keep your liberals over there. They're causing a problem everywhere, moving in, and whatever the real estate gig in Colorado is, they make so much money that they come in and they just buy these houses, and the housing prices go up. It does all sorts of weird things, but politically is where it does the weirdest thing, and can become kind of a frightening thing. But Idaho, Montana, and again, Wyoming, you just can't go wrong just about anywhere you want to go there. So where are you in? Idaho. That's what we want to know. Ray, thank you. Finally getting back. The note is in the KJV, except for the Schofield. Yeah, and I've got the Schofield here. That's probably why I'm not on the electronic. It's just just the text version doesn't have all the good stuff with it. Ray sent me a note on Facebook with that. Note on Galatians. Let me see if I can find. Where's Facebook? You're here somewhere. There you go. Ray, I see you there. Come on, open up. There we go. Well, possibly. Let's see. Brethren, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Amen. Unto the Galatians, written from Rome. Okay. I do now remember that. So, Galatians chapter 6:16, right here, some of the versions have some added words. Let's see. I think Galatians 6:16. Let's see if Bullinger says something about that. No, he doesn't. So you're exactly right. I have seen that before. That at the end of the verse, it says, unto the Galatians written from Rome. Let me see. I happen to have over here one of the old open Bibles, which is King James Version. I'm going to see if they happen to have that in there. Galatians chapter 6. No, it doesn't. So let's see. Ray says it's in all my King James Version except Schofield. I'm gonna do some work on that because interesting that it's obviously a textual issue, a textual difference. But I don't know. I got to dig into that. You caught me on that one on the. So I got to get with it before it's Ask the Theologian, and you see that I don't know everything. That would just be horrible. On the Theological Insomniac, it can happen. Okay, I'm going through the comments here a little quicker because it is nearly midnight. Dear William, is that it? Good to see you. In Romans 3:30, Jews are saved by faith and Gentiles are saved through faith. Is there a difference? I've dealt with this personally. I don't know that I've ever talked about it on a program before. Let's go to Romans chapter 3, verse 30. And deal with that for just a moment. I'll show you what, again, dear William, I believe is the name. Seeing it is one God which shall justify the circumcision by faith and the uncircumcision through faith. Let's first look at the Greek here in verse 30 and bring that up a little larger for you. The circumcision, ek, in, with, or by, out of is the most standard, but by is a good translation, and the circumcision, dia, through. So we definitely have a textual, two different words, not the same word. Let's go ahead and check and see if Bullinger says anything. He does not. So, one God it is who will justify the circumcision and will justify the uncircumcision. So that's the heart of the sentence. One God will justify. One God will justify the circumcision. One God will justify the uncircumcision. So the issue here has to do with by faith and through faith. Is there a difference? Ek and dia, out of faith, dia, diameter, through, good translation. The other, faith is the same. You've got the definite article on the second, through the faith, basically is what it says. But that's not terribly unusual to have a definite article that's not translated. Greek uses definite articles in a different way than English. So you notice in the King James, again, here, the uncircumcision through faith. It doesn't say through the faith, just says through faith. That's getting it into English in the proper way. So I wouldn't have put the definite article either. But to argue that there is a difference here, I think the definite article in the Greek helps us to argue that there is not a difference, because typically using the definite article here, tes pisteos, through the faith. The definite article here on the second one would tell us we're talking about this faith. So out of faith and through the same faith. I think, again, probably would want to do a little searching on this to see if we could verify this. But I think that you could probably find the words ek and dia used with a genitive as they are here. That's a possessive kind of thing. So it's the circumcision of faith and the uncircumcision through faith, or by faith and through faith. I think you could probably find ek and dia used somewhat interchangeably like that, just to give good rhetoric. You know, it sounds better not to repeat the same word. And whether it is out of, so they're justified out of faith, they're justified through faith. I think that Bullinger, but I'm not sure exactly where his chart is. He's got a decent chart on here. I think that something coming out of would be very similar to something coming through and it's going to come out the other side, so to speak. So I think you could build a good case. Now, right now, I'm just going to build a speculative case. But my speculation is you could actually build a good grammatical case to say, in this instance, they're actually the same thing. It is just, again, it's rhetoric. That is, putting it poetically, putting it in a way that sounds nice instead of just repeating the same or overusing the same words. You would have that. I suppose that there are some who have argued that they're different. But if they argue they're different, I would be trying to think, and we could do some search and try to find them. I'd be trying to think, well, what is the difference? To be saved by faith or to be saved through faith? He will justify the circumcision by faith. I think that in the argument here in Romans chapter 3, he's explaining to the Jews what God is doing in this time, in this dispensation, in the dispensation of the age of grace. And so he's arguing that all, both Jew and Gentile, or Greek in this case, or circumcision and uncircumcision, even more precise terms, that all of them are being saved. God is doing this new thing, and he's saving all of them through faith. Could you argue that he's trying to say he's going to justify the circumcision out of faith and through faith? I'm not sure where you'd go with the difference. I'm sure somebody knows. Somebody's probably made the argument there. I just don't see it there. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid we establish the law. The word through in verse 31 is also dia. So through are the same words in 30 and 31. I don't know where you'd go if you had a difference there. I'd be interested in hearing the argument and seeing if there's some ability there. I remember in the past when I went through Romans, it's been a number of years now, that I wrestled with that a little bit, but I, as far as I remember, I didn't, I couldn't come up. I concluded that they're the same thing. Dan, remember the Alamo, where the government came 2 weeks too late to help. You're exactly right. Indeed, it did indeed. Okay, let's see here as I wrap things up. I want to make sure I don't miss anything just unbelievably important here. The expensive shofars are from kudu, but they also use ram's horns and other critters. I have seen the ram's horn. I don't. The expensive ones are the sort of rounded ones. But the ram's horn is sort of short. I think, as far as I know, in Judaism, it's all the same. You blow it and it makes a sound. I doubt that there's that much difference there, and I don't have one. If I did have one, I don't know. I mean, it'd be a nice decoration. That's sort of all that it states that you've been to Israel, you love Israel, all that kind of stuff. But, would I, you didn't ask this question, but would I ever use one in my church? Nah, I don't think so. And I would probably be afraid to display it. Let's say, in our studio, for example, let's get back there. Let's just if I had one, would I hang it up? Maybe above the scroll there. It's not really there. I'm afraid it would communicate the wrong thing. It would communicate maybe that I think I'm Jewish. Maybe that I was of the Hebrew roots movement. Maybe that I was of the Word of Faith movement. So, a lot of that I wouldn't want to communicate. So, I don't know. I don't think I would go for it. Well, it's been fun being back for the Theological Insomniac. And what is it? It's midnight here, 12:09. Yeah. And it is, I don't know. It's cold here. I think I saw earlier. Now I lost my temperature thing. We're down to -9. Probably cold where you are too. But it's warm in here. Got my marmot on. What'd you call it? Pig whistle pig? We're in a whistle pig tonight, and always fun. I like these programs because they're so casual and laid back, and we just look and read there and carry on all that out. And yeah, Patricia, I'm with you. Don't display the shofar. It would just communicate all the wrong things, wouldn't it? Kind of like wearing a prayer shawl, and all that kind of stuff. But maybe Wayne's right. It would only communicate you have a ram's horn. Yeah, that is what it is, isn't it? Always fun to be with you. This coming week, as far as I know, going through it real quick in my mind, as far as I know, we have nothing that is going to hinder any broadcast. So we will be 5 days of Ask the Theologian. We'll be on Wednesday night, the book of John. On Thursday night, the book of Ezekiel. And then back next Sunday for 1 Thessalonians and the book of Revelation. We're going to be on the millennium, which ties in perfectly with Christmas, and looking forward to all that. Hey, before I let you go, one more thing. We are going to have our annual online Christmas Eve service. I've just got to figure out the time and let you know, but we are having our online Christmas Eve service. Nathan is getting the site ready, where we ask you every year to make, this 15-second little video of greeting, because it's nice sometimes to see the face and hear someone say Merry Christmas, and I just love that part. I asked him, should we do that again this year? And we talked about it. I said, I really kind of like it. So you just plan on sending that. We'll get all the instructions out, but we will do the online Christmas Eve service, and always have fun with all of that. And it's just been fun being back for the Theological Insomniac and just chatting a little while, kind of, sitting with you across the table on Sunday night and having a Diet Coke together, and I don't know, eating some pretzels while you're at it. Always a blessing to see you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Stay warm, my friends, and stay in the Word. Been once again, a delight. Now I got to go over here because I'm on my own. Got to push play, turn the music on. Having a Diet Coke together. There it goes. And I don't know, eating some pretzels. Then I put up the right picture. Always a blessing to like that. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. The program is so professionally concluded. Time. Stay warm, my friends. Then I turn my mic off, leave the music on for a moment, and then I turn us off air. See, I know what I'm doing. It's been fun with you. Goodbye, and God bless each one of you. Turn the music on. Having a Diet Coke together. There it goes. And I don't know, eating some pretzels. Put up the right picture. Always a blessing to like that. Seeing you tomorrow. The program is so professionally concluded. Time. Stay warm, my friends. Then I turn my mic off, leave the music on for a moment, and then I turn us off air. See, I know what I'm doing. It's been fun with you. Goodbye, and God bless each one of you. Turn the music on.